People, we're live. And if you are watching this at this moment, you too are live. It seems as if we have not been together for a very, very long time.
It does feel that way.
We spoke about how the following week we would be taking a little bit of break because there would be an election going on in this nation to discover who the president of the United States is going to be. I don't think much got accomplished since...
They're still counting.
There is one very upsetting thing in all of this, is that sometime between Election Day and today, my Jesus 2020 sign was ripped out of my lawn.
That's very upsetting.
I demand a repost of my Jesus 2020 sign.
You know what that means, Dad?
What's that?
We just need to get a bigger one for next time.
Next time. You put your sign on the lawn and it's not safe.
No.
Come on, somebody! We haven't done a little excerpt on a little history, so I think if you have a little something to share, Kara.
There was an anniversary yesterday, November 9th, 1856. Edition of the New York Herald announced the ordination of Leonard Bacon as the new pastor of Litchfield's Congregational Church.
What was that name again?
Leonard Bacon. I don't remember which pastor that would have been and who came before and after him, but that would have been an interesting thing to look at before. From Ministry of the First Congregational Church, Alan White is quoted as saying, "He was fearless and sometimes rash in his attacks on everything and everybody he thought wrong, thus making many friends and enemies." Reverend Bacon's term was 4 years, 1856 until 1860. He is buried in the Grove Street Cemetery in New Haven. And there's this little picture that is probably just a scan of the clipping of the newspaper, which is very interesting. So in that issue, it was memorialized and written for everyone in the town to see that it was official. He was sworn in as the new reverend.
It sounds very final because the excerpt is short. It's like he was very rash. He served for 4 years, which is not that long.
No.
And then he's buried in the cemetery. So that to me is like really concerning. It's like 4 years and boom, you're...
That's a little intense, yeah.
But I have no worries about that because
You have to live a long time.
Number one, I have to live far more than 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
That's one.
Yes.
Number two, I don't have a brash personality at all. I make no enemies, ever. Look at me. I don't know. There's a lot about me that to love. And if people are on the fence, I just push them over the fence a little bit, and they fall in love with me. I make no enemies. It's just the way it is. And the most amazing thing about this, not that I should compare myself with this reverend. The main important thing that people are totally safe is that last reverend's name.
Bacon.
That should have been a red flag.
I was wondering how you would tie in the Bacon somehow, because that last name is pretty golden.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
My last name as a rabbi is Oliveira, and that is
is it of the olive tree? Or
yes,
from?
Yes, son of the olive tree.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. It was one of the code names given to the lineage of Aaron's line.
Right.
When the Sephardic Hebrews who went south, they were being hunted down, so they would change their names, and they didn't want to lose their identity somehow, so they changed their names to trees in Israel. Last name, so that someday, somehow, their children or great-great-grandchildren would wonder, why do we have names from trees of Israel? And they would remember and return back.
I think that's amazing. I started looking into the meaning of my my maiden name, Haynes, because I was like, this can't just be a t-shirt, sock, and underwear company. There's got to be more to it than that. So I looked into it. It's actually Germanic last name from the root word that basically means hawthorn tree, which is another medicinal tree that has fruits that aren't necessarily tasty, but they're health, like they're good for you. They make like elixirs and things from it. So I went from being from the hawthorn tree to being from the olive tree. So it's just like so interesting looking into your name and like the meanings of your names and stuff like that.
Well, beautiful. Now that we know a little bit more about trees and names and
Bacon.
During this season, we are doing this amazing study of going through scripture and showing where the Aleph Tav was removed from the translations. This particular part of the season, we have been going through the story of Joseph and finding out where the Aleph Tavs appear in the story of Joseph.
Joseph is particularly interesting because he is one of the patriarchs, I would say, that is, his life is like a reflection of messianic prophecy. It's like his life is a type and shadow of the coming Messiah.
Right.
So it's one of the reasons why this has been really interesting to just read through this story in particular.
I skipped over the part of the story where Joseph is received as second in command,
right,
because Pharaoh had a dream that was very troubling to him. He saw 7 like really hefty fat cows, and then all of a sudden there was 7 very skinny, scrawny cows. I think they came out of a river or something like that, the Nile or something like that. I'm not sure. Yeah. So anyway, they come out of the river and they ate the fat cows. The skinny cows ate all the fat cows.
But they stayed skinny. It was bizarre.
Right. So I was wondering if there's some kind of like I don't know, like some kind of like a diet that you could eat fat things but remain skinny. Keto? Atkins. These were the Atkin cows. But the thing is, it would seem like a strange and silly, weird dream. Then he had another one, and it had something to do, I think, with sheaves of either corn or sheaves of grain that were very, very big, and then 7 of them, and then 7 of them came and overtook them, and everything was depleted. And
it was that same Atkins diet of those ears of corn or grain eating up the fat, beautiful corn.
Correct.
And still being all skinny and scrawny and dry.
They look like some of those plants that, when we forget to water them.
The one that I took out, just like, just watch us now.
We could have left it here for a visual.
We could have.
So the Pharaoh, the king, has these dreams and is extremely troubled by them. He's like, like, what is this? Like, it wasn't just an interesting, silly thing. It was very profound. And of course, Joseph looked at him and says, well, I know what that means. Like, both of your dreams are the same exact thing. It's just that when you have a repeat of a same type of a dream that means the same thing, it means it's a sure thing. And so Joseph tells Pharaoh, he says, what's going to happen is this: it's going to be 7 years of plenty. Bound to everything you put your hand to is going to turn to a blessing. 7 years of incredible blessing. And after the 7 years, there's going to be 7 years of complete devastation. And all of that blessing of the 7 years will be just totally wiped out. And it'll be a time, 7 years of hopelessness. And what's amazing is that when the Pharaoh heard this, he thought to himself and he said, if that's going to happen, I have to figure out a way to prepare. And I need somebody to kind of help manage to prepare for this. So he turns to Joseph and he says, I don't know anybody that can do it. I mean, you'll be able to prepare. You already know the interpretation of the
God
dream.
speaks to this guy. He's the one.
Right,
basically.
right. Yeah. So they give him, now these are Gentiles, so they don't even know who God is.
Right. They've got their own pantheon of different gods.
They have
with the
many gods.
Tons of them.
Tons of them. But this is like a manifestation of something that's happening at that moment. And this king says, this has got to be the man who's going to, I have to entrust this man to plan and prepare for this. And apparently, Joseph had like an amazing gift of organization. I mean, everywhere he went, he would rise up to the top. Mm-hmm. Even at Potiphar's house, he was placed in charge of all that Potiphar had. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing happened in prison. When he was in prison, he was placed in a position where he was responsible for everyone. So he had an amazing gift, and it's a fascinating story. I love the story of Joseph because. Joseph, even though he was suffering many places, wherever he would go, like he would get chopped down and then he would just start blossoming again. Yeah. Chopped down and he started being blossoming again, which is amazing. I pray that the Father would cause us to be like that. That trials and tribulations come. We get very disappointed, but instead of being like victims and just cowering down and saying, "Oh, there is no hope," just start shining wherever you are, whether it's in prison, whether it's in the hospital, wherever you are, in a bad job somewhere. Just shine. And I find it fascinating that he did that. So amazingly, his whole life is going downhill to the point where he could almost be completely destroyed and dead and forgotten. He has no family. He has no people that, like, close friends. He has no one. And in the time of the worst time of everything being forgotten, he's elevated to the second in command to the most powerful nation on earth. He's like the VP of Egypt.
Right.
It's amazing. And so the Pharaoh basically gives them a cup. They change his name.
Yep.
They change his looks because you cannot be second in command of Egypt looking like this.
You can't look shabby.
No.
Mm-mm.
No. The Egyptians and beards did not go.
Yeah, their beards were fake. They'd strap a little woolen thing on. Like, we thought the, 1800s, 1700s were weird when the wigs came in. These guys had beard wigs. And guy liner.
Yes, they had eyeliner.
The youths call it guy liner when you put it on a dude. So, he had guy liner.
I wonder if I would look good in guy liner.
Oh, no.
Okay, so you get the gist.
Right.
They change him immediately, and they change his clothing, and they change everything. And sure enough, what happens is there's 7 years of great abundance. And during those 7 years, Joseph plans everything out. And he ends up setting everything up so that everything that you're collecting, you're saving, putting aside. And Egypt actually becomes extremely wealthy. Part of Egypt's incredible power and wealth came to them because Joseph, a Hebrew who was among them, is the one who caused Egypt to become the most powerful nation on earth. Right. And they literally owned everything around them.
It says over and over again throughout his story that the Lord was with him and everything that his hand found to do prospered.
Here he is. He's in Egypt. He's living the dream. He has a wife. He has children. And you can tell that what happened to him when he was young probably wrecked him pretty bad, because in all of this power, he doesn't even try to go wonder what happened to his brothers. It's kind of like sometimes when bad things happen to you, you almost just want to put them behind you and never go there again. You just, it's done. You're done. You're done. You were left for dead. You were sold. It's over. Now you're living your life, That's where we're going to pick up the story, because while he's living really well in Egypt, even during the famine, not too far away from Egypt, you have his whole family starving to death.
Oh, are they in Canaan at this point?
They're in Canaan, yes. So there's 12 brothers altogether. Benjamin is one of them, right? But the father doesn't send Benjamin. Because Benjamin is the last thing that the father has. That's a memory of his beloved wife. So he keeps Benjamin home, and he sends the other brothers out to go see if they can find some food from Egypt, because they must have heard word of mouth that Egypt has food. So maybe you can go there and buy some. And that's where we're going to pick up the story. In Genesis chapter 42, verse 1.
All right. So, reading Genesis chapter 42 in its entirety out of the New Revised Standard Version, but if you're following along, you can use whatever translation you like. It says, "When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, 'Why do you keep looking at one another? I have heard,' he said, 'that there is grain in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die.' So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he feared that harm might come to him."
Just a quick note, Kara. These things are so amazing. You notice the number of the brothers that went. I mentioned a little earlier.
10.
It's very specific. And 10. It's amazing. See, this is why to this day, if you go to a synagogue and they need people to pray, they can't start a service until they have
A minyan, which
10.
is 10.
A minyan, yeah. When Abraham was trying to figure out a way to save the cities that were going to be destroyed, and he came down and he said, "If there's 10 righteous men in that city, will you save the city?" And the Lord says, "Yes, I'll save the city." So 10, just 10 people. And I'm on a little trail, but I'll tell you what, this past week I've been so encouraged because, there's just so much going on in the news, and some people are excited, some people are upset, and sometimes you almost think, is there hope for this nation, because it's so divided right now. Like you almost can't have, no matter who wins, there's this division.
There's still a lot of like vinegar and
right just a lot of pain
on
and
social media. Everybody's just kind of throwing up their feelings.
What came to me, I remembered that the Lord said, if there's 10 righteous, like he'll save a nation. And then I suddenly realized, wait a minute, there's a lot more than 10 righteous people in this land. So there's hope, everybody. I'm sorry, I just had to say that.
10 righteous.
Carry on.
All right. So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother, Benjamin, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might come to him. Thus the sons of Israel were among the other people who came to buy grain, for the famine had reached the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was governor over the land. It was he who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke harshly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan, to buy food." Although Joseph had recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Joseph also remembered the dreams that he had dreamed about them.
I'm just...
He said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." They said to him, "No, my lord, your servants have come to buy food," wearing long blonde wigs. No, that's Joseph, right?
He's
Joseph.
Wearing
the long blonde wig, right?
Yes.
"We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." But he said to them, "No, you have come to see the nakedness of the land." Again, they said, "We are your servants. We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of a certain man in the land of Canaan. The youngest, however, is now with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said to them, "It is just as I have said to you. You are spies. Here is how you shall be tested. As Pharaoh lives, you shall not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Let one of you go and bring your brother, while the rest of you remain in prison, in order that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you or else. As Pharaoh lives, surely you are spies." And he put them all together in prison for 3 days. Ooh!
That must have felt so good. Yeah. How do you like me now? I think that's what he was thinking. All right, go get my brother.
Unfortunately, yeah, probably. On 3 days, though, we put them in there for 3 days.
Yes, yes, yes.
On the third day,
Oh, come
Joseph
on.
said to them.
Come on, somebody. On what day?
On the third day.
Come on, somebody. On what?
On the third day.
On the third day of Christmas, my chulo said to me. This is very key because there was somebody else who on the third day was released from a type of a prison.
On the third day, Joseph said to them, "Do this, and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here, where you are imprisoned. The rest of you shall go and carry grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me. Thus your words will be verified, and you shall not die." And they agreed to do so.
A long time I had read this. I never caught this. He was trying to get his only true brother to be restored back to him. That's what he wanted, because all of the other ones were half brothers. Benjamin was the only one who was a full-blooded real brother to him.
Right.
So he just wanted to make sure that his brother
Right.
was okay.
Are they treating him well?
Right.
You know.
And
how
and
is
he was trying to set some up for them to bring him there. Bring
Yeah.
him back.
That's so interesting. "And bring your youngest brother to me. Thus your words will be verified, and you shall not die." And they agreed to do so. They said to one another, "Alas, we are paying the penalty for what we did to our brother. We saw his anguish when he pleaded with us, but we would not listen. That is why this anguish has come upon us." Then Reuben answered them, "Did I not tell you not to wrong the boy? But you would not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood." They did not know that Joseph understood them, since he spoke with them through an interpreter. Oh, the plot thickens. Oh. He turned away from them and wept. Then he returned and spoke to them. And he picked out Simeon and had him bound before their eyes. Joseph then gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to return every man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for their journey. This was done for them. So he snuck the money back.
Yes.
Joseph's brothers return to Canaan. They loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed. When one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his money at the top of the sack. He said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here it is in my sack." At this they lost heart and turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done to us?" When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, "The man, the Lord of the land, spoke harshly to us and charged us with spying on the land." But we said to him, "We are honest men, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is now with our father in the land of Canaan." Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, "By this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me. Take grain for the famine of your households and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me, and I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men. Then I will release your brother to you, and you may trade in the land." As they were emptying their sacks. Oh, that's interesting. Basically, if they did all of this, there is the additional, you can come and you can actually maybe make a living off of trading your wares.
Sure.
As they were emptying their sacks, there in each one's sack was his bag of money. When they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were dismayed. And their father Jacob said to them, "I am the one that you have bereaved of children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more. And now you would take Benjamin? All of this has happened to me." Then Reuben said to his father, "You may kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you." But he said, "My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If harm should come to him on the journey that you are to make, you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol." Man, that's heavy.
Yeah. Now, a key thing about what's happening in this story before we even get to the Aleph Tav. One of the brothers is imprisoned. One of them. Okay. And it's, remember
Simeon.
Simeon. Okay. Now, Simeon is the second born, because the first one is Reuben, the second was Simeon, the third one was Levi, and the fourth one was Judah, in
Right.
order of their births. Okay? This is kind of significant because this whole story is about how no matter what, God is listening. God hears. Like, even if we're doing what's wrong and then we need help, God hears. If Joseph is in prison, God hears. God hears. And I find it fascinating that what's captured is Simeon. Simeon is captured. Simeon cannot escape, which means whatever Simeon represents is unescapable. It's captured. I find it fascinating because Simeon is Shimeon, and every week we sing Shema Israel. And Simeon, you know what the name means?
Isn't that one the Lord has heard?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Lord has heard is stuck in prison, meaning God has heard and no one can take God's hearing. I don't know. Is this too deep?
That's crazy.
Like, the ability for God to hear has been captured. And no one can take it out. Like, God, it's all of this in the story is just so profound and so amazing.
It's interesting that he's holding on to the secondborn and asking for a secondborn.
Right.
Too.
Right.
I found
Yeah.
that really interesting.
Yes.
It's like, I'm going to hold on to your secondborn of
Right.
your family
Exactly.
until you bring the secondborn of my family.
Come on, somebody. Glory. Revelation all over the place. We're going to go look at where the Aleph Tavs appear.
This is my favorite part.
The first Aleph Tav appears on verse 7.
Then Joseph's brothers came and bowed down to him with faces to the ground. When Joseph saw Jesus code his brothers.
Okay, so this is amazing. Like, what God is saying is, in this interaction, when his brothers are bowing down to him, they don't know him, but they're bowing down to him, he sees his brothers, and God is saying, pay attention to this. This is a Jesus code moment. This is God saying the day will come when the people of Israel will bow down to one they don't recognize, but it's his brother, their brother. That's come on, somebody. All right, and then the next one is down on verse 8.
Though Joseph recognized Jesus code his brothers.
Yes, same thing as we just did.
They did not recognize him.
Yeah, and then next verse.
Then Joseph remembered Jesus code the dreams.
Yes.
He had dreamed about them.
Yes, because not suddenly, now Joseph remembers, wait a minute, I had these dreams, and the dreams were that his brothers would be bowing down to him. So, and what God is saying, his dreams are a Jesus code dream, meaning that the people of Israel, the brothers of Jesus, will someday bow down to him, recognizing that he is the anointed Son of God, the chosen one of the Father. It's crazy. All right. Going down, the next time it appears is...
He said to them, "You're spies. You've come to see," Jesus code, "the undefended places in the land."
Yes. So that Jesus code there, I think, has something to do with they heard that there is life and grain and food in the land. So they're coming to see that life. When it comes to grain and food, it's like Jesus is always connected to grain. Like he says, if one grain abides alone, it gains nothing, but if it's buried to the ground.
Yeah, the incorruptible seed.
Yes. And so we know that, so in a sense, it's as if Joseph is like that grain that had to be buried into the pit so that he could then come out and then multiply in the land of Egypt for the blessing. So that's what that's all about.
Send one from among yourselves to get Jesus code your brother while you remain confined.
So that's Benjamin. So basically it's saying like there's something about Benjamin that's connected to the Jesus code. Again, Benjamin being the youngest one represents the last generation of the people of Israel who are going to be on earth, who are going to be restored. This is what Paul is speaking about then when he says all of Israel will be saved. He's talking about the last generation of the people of Israel. The Lord is saying here, know that that's the Jesus code. There's going to be something happening with that last generation that's connected to the anointed Messiah. Then we go down, I believe, verse 18 is the next time it appears.
Then Joseph said to them on the third day, do this and you will live Jesus code.
Yeah. So what he's saying is this, is that whatever he's instructing them to do, if they do it, they will have Jesus code. They will have salvation. It's kind of like saying, yeah, you may have messed it up real bad, but if you do what I'm telling you to do, you will be part of this too. You're part of the Jesus code. You'll have life. You will have salvation. You will have Yeshua. It's so beautiful. It's fascinating how you go verses and verses, and Aleph Tav disappears, and then it reappears again on verse 24.
Right. He turned away from them and wept. When he turned back to them and spoke to them, he took Jesus code Simeon.
There it is.
From them and tied him up before their eyes.
There you go. So now he's tying up the one whose name means the Lord has heard, or the Lord has heard. So it's like the brothers come, they say they petition, he doesn't know who they are, but his heart is moved, so the Lord has heard. So he's hearing it. So he ties the one who represents the Lord has heard, and the one who represents the Lord has heard is also connected to Aleph Tav, because the Jesus code is the promise that God will hear, and he sends the anointed one to save his brothers.
And the next one is in verse 25. It's right after.
Verse 25, yeah.
Then Joseph gave orders to fill Jesus code their bags with grain.
Right. Now, we spoke about this. Grain is always connected to like the harvest,
right,
the end of the age. So here he's basically saying, they've come, they've asked, they're going to get the grain, and that grain is Aleph Tav grain. It's like Jesus code. It's like I'm feeding them something that they don't know right now. They don't know what this is. The scripture also refers to grain as the word of God. It's like the bread of life. You make bread out of grain. So all of that is connected, and he's giving that to them, but they don't really know what it is. They think they just need to eat and have, but he's doing more to them, because as you see in the continuation of the story.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like the first one having to do with seed was the unprotected land, which is the farmlands,
right,
where the seed is grown.
Right.
And then that one had specific, the
right,
grain itself.
Yes.
So then the next one is 26, correct?
Yes.
All right. Then they loaded their Jesus code grain.
Yes.
Again, on their donkeys and left from there. And I'll just continue because it's also in...
next verse.
Yeah.
Yep.
As one of them opened Jesus code, his sack to give fodder to his donkey at the lodge, he saw Jesus code, his money.
Right. So all of that is connected. So now what's happening is this. The grain is connected to the Jesus code, and the money is connected to the Jesus code, because it's saying you cannot buy the salvation. You cannot buy that. The Jesus code, again, salvation comes through faith. You
Right.
can't buy it. You can't like, so if you think you're going to pay for it, that's going to be returned back to you, because you cannot purchase that. This is not representative of a normal transaction of going to buy something and getting what you bought. This is him saying, this is a Jesus code, meaning my brothers who rejected me are going to starve, and they're going to come, and I am their salvation, and I'm going to give them food. The food is connected to the word of God, which the word becomes flesh to dwell among us. So the word is the Jesus code, and you can't pay for it. So the whole thing is connected to the Jesus code. It's
Jesus code can't be bought.
Can't buy the Jesus code. What's wrong with you folks? And then verse 29.
Yep. When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him, Jesus code, all that had happened to them, saying,
Okay, that's really fascinating. So their story is being marked by Jesus code. It's like God saying their entire story that told their dad is a Jesus code. Like there's a formula of Jesus code being put together in this story.
Yeah,
so
there's
pay
something
attention.
about this.
The whole story is connected to that Jesus code. And then
They told him Jesus code all that had happened to them, saying, the man, the Lord of the land, spoke with us harshly and took us as spies, Jesus code of the land.
Yes.
He's pointing to the land
Mm-hmm.
and the grain. So the next one is verse 32.
Yes.
All right. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is with Jesus code, our father,
Yes.
today in the land of Canaan.
Yes. So again, this is representative of Benjamin, who is the last generation, the youngest one, and he is at the heart of the father. Like the father doesn't want to let go of that one.
Right.
It's like the last generation of the people of Israel on earth. The father doesn't want to let go of them. Like he's trying to hold on to them, until they are awakened to their brother that is alive, who rose from the grave. Beautiful. So what's the next one? Is it 34?
I think it's 34, yes.
Okay.
Then bring Jesus code, your youngest brother, to me, so that I may know you are not spies, but you are honest. I'll give you back Jesus code, your brother, and you can move about freely in the land.
So beautiful. Yeah. So again, Benjamin is connected to the Jesus code. Like, give me Benjamin, and I'll give you God hears.
Right.
And they're both Jesus
They're
code.
both marked by it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're the second-borns of both families.
Yes, that's beautiful. Beautiful that you picked that out, because you're right. Simeon is the second born, and Benjamin is the second born from that mother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so. Oh my goodness, it's just like the layers and layers and loops of revelation are just so amazing. That's why I often encourage people to kind of like put aside that whole 1 year reading Bible thing, because like you'll never catch these things. If you're just trying to get to the next verse, you don't catch some of the amazing things. All right. And then I think, we have two more? 37?
Oh no, we've got 35.
Oh, still 35.
I don't think we've done 35 yet.
Okay, so there's three more then.
We just saw the double Aleph Tav over the second-born sons.
Got it.
Now as they were emptying their sacks, behold, there was each man's bundle of money in his sack. When they saw Jesus code their money bundles, they and their father were afraid.
Right.
There's that whole thing of the Aleph Tav marking the money again.
Exactly. The Aleph Tav marks the money because it costs 30 pieces of silver to purchase the blood of the Aleph Tav. And same thing, after Judas got paid, he doesn't want to keep it.
Yep,
he wants to give it back.
Yep.
He's returning it back to
the people who bought
the
blood.
who bought the blood, and they can't take it. It's like everyone's like, what are we going to do with this money? That's what they're doing right here. What are we going to do with this money? Because we were supposed to pay for it. It came back. Now what do we do with it?
Right.
And of course, in the New Testament, we find that they bought the potter's field with it, so it's all connected. But so that money is marked by Aleph Tav, because he's saying you cannot purchase this. You can pay for it, but it's going to be returned right back to you. You cannot purchase this. It's a free gift of God. Beautiful. So let's see, where are we?
37, I believe.
37, okay.
Then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, you can put Jesus code my two sons to death if I don't bring him back to you. Put him in my hand, and I will return him to you.
Yes. So that's really fascinating, because now this is Reuben. Now Reuben is the firstborn. Reuben, behold the son, Reuben. And he's basically vowing to his father, like I am willing to have my two sons put to death if I don't return him. And I don't know how to connect this, but when I see two put to death, I always think about the Aleph Tav, Jesus, and the two that would die next to him. I can't put it together, but it just makes me think about little things like that. Sometimes God gives you like little fragments of revelation. You can't kind of put them all together, but it's really fascinating that Reuben is saying, and I'm willing to lose my two sons to make sure I bring you back your Aleph Tav son. So it's beautiful.
His two Aleph Tav sons. For
Yeah.
his father's two Aleph Tav sons.
Yeah, that's that's I didn't even notice that. The Aleph Tav is marking the two sons. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So then we go to the last
This is the last
verse.
one. But he said, "My son will not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone remains. And if harm should happen to him along the way you're going, you'll bring my," Jesus code, "gray hair down to Sheol in grief."
Isn't that amazing? Who went into the Sheol? Who went into Sheol? Who, like...
Jesus.
Yeah!
Jesus went down there.
Jesus went into Sheol. That's right. So here it is. He's
to minister to the souls of the lost.
Exactly. How amazing that here, this whole idea of going down into hell is an Aleph Tav code. It's Jesus code. Says, yeah, because Jesus is the one who will have to go into hell, with grief and sorrow, So anyway, it's just amazing. And that concludes this evening's episode of the mystery of the Aleph Tav in the story of Joseph. And next week we are going to continue because this is such a beautiful story, and finding the Aleph Tavs in the story is just amazing.
It's really fun because it's not like it means anything in particular. It's just saying pay attention. So as you read it, there's a lot that you can glean from it.
Exactly.
Just like how we were recognizing the patterns of twos and things like that.
Right.
So
it's fascinating.
It's kind of something new almost every time you read it.
You know what's so funny, Kara? Every single one of us has the Aleph Tav inside of us.
This is true.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we have something like 9,000 Aleph Tavs inside of us, because it says that the Lord is writing his word in our hearts and in our mind. So every single one of these Aleph Tavs is sitting there jumping and leaping for joy. So may the good Lord bless you and keep you. May the good Lord cause his face to shine upon you and be merciful to you. May the good Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his perfect peace. Shalom, everyone.